40 years ago, I was here and I saw a lot of things that I didn't know would be like this today. I saw forests. Well, the sound of the waves still there, yes, but I did not see chalets. I saw coconut trees, but they were very short and young. Now they're so tall and everywhere. But you see, I must let you know something. One man that I didn't expect to be here and still be active and looking this young is Wanle Akinboboye, the owner of La Campagne Tropicana. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you,
Nice to see you. How
Sonny.
many years?
You don't turn me into an old man like you. Me, I'm. When you start saying 40 years, people will start wondering.
Well, I like to
So,
remind them these days.
because you look like you are in your 50s,
Oh,
or 51.
where are those girls? So let me come and look at me properly. Thank
And
you.
then when you say 40 years, what do you mean? Were you 10 years old when you came?
Yes, thank you for
Thank
lighting
you.
us up
Thank you
tonight.
for having me. It's good to be here.
Right.
Mm.
Like Campagne Tropicana, you know, was like child's play, middle of nowhere. And here we are, it's a huge, almost a city by itself, with chalets, mangroves, water everywhere, and the sea waves. I don't know what else to say. Tell us more about La Campana and then the chalets.
Well, I think the dream then for the 26-year-old boy, oh,
You were 26 at that time.
I was 26, yes. In retrospect, I wanted to create the first authentic African themed resort that we can showcase to the world. I had just finished my master's in the US, FIU, Florida International University. And I just figured that the best way and place to show the best of who you are is in hospitality and tourism. Because when people come to visit, even expatriates that live in a particular country for 4, 5, 10, 15 years, if they are not invited to our homes, to our parties, to our events, they will go through our countries without our countries going through them.
Mm.
They will go through our culture without our culture going through them. So it was quite imperative for us to realize that the best way for us to showcase and sell our culture is through tourism and hospitality. Uh, because when people come here to work or they come to visit for any reason whatsoever, uh, they want to learn about the culture of the people.
Yeah.
And we need to create an atmosphere for them to learn, an atmosphere for them to experience. Bear in mind, the 26-year-old boy had never built a resort before, had never run a resort before in his life, but he had the vision and the conviction and the determination that this should be done, and it shouldn't be a replica of another culture or what he has seen in the Americas, in the Caribbean, or what he has seen in Acapulco, in all the different areas and resorts around the world. It must be authentic, it must be original. So what I did then came on a banana boat, fishing boat. I don't know if you call it banana, a fishing boat.
You just remind me of Harry Belafonte.
Uh-huh. Banana boat. And cross the Atlantic. And then I wanted an area because I knew it would take a bit of time for me to birth it. Because it's just it's an idea, it's a mindset, it's a thought, a concept. And the resources to have all kinds of architects and people to work. As a matter of fact, if you had architect at the time, you really will not know how to express yourself in terms of what you want to do. It's internalized. So we had to start the process on a gradual basis. So I wanted a location that is so far away from the city, because I knew that if it's too close to the city will catch up with it.
Very much so. It's showing now.
And if you look at what has happened in Ajah now,
Right.
you go to Ajah then was a big forest and bush.
Today is a big,
And
city.
when I used to come from VI at that time, the only structure that was there was the Chevron. From Chevron down to Ekwe was thick forest. I used to see peacocks. I used to see owls. I used to see all kinds of birds. It used to be beautiful all the way to Eleko area. But they're all now taken up by the city. So I wanted a place that, as a matter of fact, I didn't want road to come. I wanted it to be an environment where you have to come by the water or use a helicopter. So you come into an oasis of African hospitality, a presentation of the continent of Africa in a highly cosmopolitan manner. Take the continent, polish it, and represent it in a manner that it will attract and woo our brothers in diaspora.
Yeah.
Because, see, they want to gravitate toward Africa, but they don't want to gravitate toward poverty. Now, we spend too much time either showcasing colloquial Africa, Africa the way it was maybe 400 or 500 years ago. And then those of us that are cosmopolitan tend to showcase our Africanness from places we've been. If you've been to the US,
trying to showcase poverty Africa.
Exactly. Yeah, prosperity Africa, Africa that has grown.
Being positive with words. Okay, I agree with you.
Yeah, so I believe strongly that was what my mindset was at the time. And I focused on creating very slowly and raising it from level to level and then managing it from level to level and creating it in a very gradual manner. I was thinking big. I wanted it to be something I can franchise throughout the world, because I know that from our primary, secondary, extended target market audience is very huge. In the continent itself, we are 30.2 million square kilometers of area. And then we have 1.5 billion people in the continent. We have about 44 million in the Caribbean, and 32 million of them are Africans. You have 120 million in Brazil, the second largest African concentration in the world outside of Nigeria. You have 380 million plus in the Americas. You have 9.6 in Europe. And then you have over half a billion lovers of Africa. That's a humongous market.
It is.
And even Nigerians, Sonny, you'll be shocked. I ran into so many of our age mates that have been in the US for 15, 20, 30 years. And their children have never been to Africa before.
They want to come and see Africa.
They have never seen Africa. They have absolutely no clue what Africa is like. So the idea is for us to now create an environment where folks that come to visit, that come on any form of tourism, can experience the continent, can experience nature. The uniqueness of the location was that you have 3 attractions in one location.
I wanted to ask you, looking at the whole, graduation, as it were, from when you started to this moment, what were your challenges? Because, the way you're saying it now, it doesn't seem like it's something like it was very easy to do. Couldn't have been.
Well, in retrospect, now, if I am to think about challenges, I would have stopped. If I knew what I was going to go through, um, from every angle. Uh, I think challenges really are not things that you worry about when you have a vision.
Mm. Mm.
You are
I like that.
focused on
Yeah.
that vision. You're just going for it. You
There's some
you,
kind of
you
dogged
usually exactly. You
determination.
usually don't even realize that there are challenges. You don't realize that And when people say think outside of the box, I tell folks that that one it's even um, a I tell folks that saying that you shouldn't think outside of a box is a deterrent to prosperity, to entrepreneurship, to leadership. You should think like there was no box there. Because when you acknowledge the presence of a box, that slows you down.
Yeah.
That makes you worry. That can stop you. That means you are inside that box and you're trying to break out of the box.
Sounds like the Pandora's box. Everything that's there is murky
It's
except
not,
hope.
I said hope. Absolutely. So, I mean,
No. Yeah.
now when I go back and I think about it,
Yes.
I much matured now. I salute the young boy then. But if I think back as to what he was thinking at the time, most of the challenges from the villagers to the staff to the workers to contractors to some local government, different government policies, taxes.
Ooh,
When you look at all of that,
serious challenges.
oh yeah, um, I don't think I was saying it then. I was just saying that these are all the things I have to do. You have to bear in mind that if it was easy, everybody would have done it.
Who were your clients? Who were the people that patronized you? I mean, yeah, you mentioned some Americans. No wahala. I
You
like.
know,
Can you tell me
Wahala.
about that place again?
Well, I had, I like I mentioned earlier when we were talking
Yes,
privately,
privately.
I had mentioned to you that there are different reasons why people do travel.
Yeah.
Let's make it simple for laymen to understand because I don't think we understand the concept of tourism. Tourism is just a movement, moving from point A to point B. That is it. And if you move within a particular country, inside a country, it's called domestic tourism.
Tourism. Okay.
Now, when you travel out of a country and you cross a border, it becomes
International.
international tourism. Now, if I live, and it has absolutely nothing to do with distance, if you live in Badagry and in 10 minutes you cross the border to Benin Republic, you're an international tourist. But if you move from Lagos to Kafanchan, for example, and it took you, for example, 24 hours, you're still domestic tourist. Now, the reason why you travel is what they define with that travel. It's either you travel for education, it's called educational tourism. If you travel to do business, it's called business tourism. So if I travel from here to Abuja to do business, it's called domestic tourism.
Okay.
Business tourism. You're right, Sonny, you're right. If you travel to define it, domestic business
Business tourism.
tourism. If you travel from here to, for example, Togo for revival, it's called international religious
Tourism.
tourist or tourism. The individual is called the tourist. If I go to Saudi Arabia as a Muslim, I am an international
Religious.
religious tourist. So if I go to Egypt for archaeology, I'm an international archaeological tourist. And what I've partaken is called international archaeological tourism. If I come to for leisure, it's called leisure tourism. Those that sit on the beach and enjoy themselves.
Bask in the sun.
I'm basking in the sun. That's leisure tourism. Any movement in life is tourism. You coming here to the resort is business, domestic business tourism. If I go from here to Newi to buy goods, I'm a domestic business tourist. And what I have just partaken is called domestic business tourism. So it's all about movement. Petroleum is a byproduct of tourism. Fuel at all is a byproduct of tourism. Without movement, there's no petroleum. If you're flying abroad, if you're coming from the US, anywhere in the world, you need aviation fuel. When you land at the airport, you need petrol fuel to take you from the hotel to the resort. If 5 million people arrive Lagos today, demand for petrol would jump up by minimum 500%. If you look at in the days of COVID, when people were not moving, petroleum became like water. Nobody needed it. So without tourism, there is no petroleum.
So that
Dynamism of tourism covers everything. Religious, entertainment, cultural tourism. You come for culture, it's cultural tourism. The umbrella body is tourism. And one thing that is key, you can travel for any reason. One thing that is constant is what we refer to as educational tourism. If I travel for leisure now, I will start getting educated from the airport. A friend of mine visited me from the States, and when he got to the resort, I asked him, how was your trip? It was fantastic. The flight was wonderful. But it took me 6 hours to get to the resort. Traffic was horrible. I said, I know. I said, I'm sorry. He said, no wahala. I said, where did you hear that from? He said, everybody was saying no wahala at the airport. So he believed that that's the, I said, yeah, you're right. He said, no wahala. So when in the morning when I greet him, hey, how are you? He said, no wahala. I said, I had to teach him how to use the word no wahala. So what you find is that most folks, most people, they from the airport, they start learning the ways of the people. They start learning the culture of the people. So that's why educational tourism is key. And everybody will go through that process.
But there's something that strikes me. Tourism of any kind has not been given the natural or its deserved position in the Nigerian polity. That breaks my heart.
Well, you know, the problem, the problem, Sonny, is this.
Yes.
You know, when something have not occurred to you, it can be right under your nose. You will not see it.
But here has represented tourism for so long.
For so long, yeah. It just have not occurred to government, the importance of this. You know, you've just said something that is so key. You know, there is nothing that can pull us out of where we are now, like tourism, because it's fast.
And there's a lot you can gain from it, actually.
Yeah, a lot. I give an example. Saudi Arabia in I think it was 2020, and they gave themselves 10 years, that in 10 years, they want to get a total of 100 million visitors to Saudi Arabia. So they open up their borders, they bring in people from different parts of the world. They brought Mike Tyson, they do sports tourism, Ronaldo. And guess what? In 2023, Sonny, they have 100 million already.
More than
In 3 years. They were planning in 2030, but in 3 years, they already have. Now they are going for 250 million.
Okay. It's the best time to take a break. We're right back because we're with Otumba Wanle Akinboboye. You see, 40 years and now, be joking, but we'll be right back.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, the stories that put Africa first.
Welcome back to Soni Irabor Live. Well, we've had some very interesting stories today on the show with Otumba Wanle Akinboboye. You see, I have to lick my lips before I call that name. Because when he was doing this thing, we're busy laughing at him. Today, the laughter is in the reverse. But tell me, what's your international response or outlook towards La Campagne Tropicana? I've heard you talk about Ikpada, whatever that means. I know Jakbao to Canada, but the other one I don't know yet. Please enlighten us.
Thank you, Sonny. Africa has 55 children as a father.
That's 55 countries.
Countries.
Ah, okay. I like that.
What I call Africa as an entity, as a father, as Mother Africa, has 55 children that are not claiming him. It's just like all your children now bearing their first names. Nigeria for Nigeria, Ghana for Ghana, Togo for Togo, Burkina Faso for Burkina Faso, North Africa, their own, South. But when we are in the US or anywhere in the world, when they see us, they see African. They don't know where you're from. Now, I mentioned earlier that Saudi Arabia, that have zero, well, don't let's say zero, maybe 0.001% of their population in diaspora. They have 100 million people visiting them, apart from religious tourism. You can imagine what 100 million people spending just $10,000 is about 10 times the size of the entire continent of Africa's GDP. In 2019, Africa's GDP was approximately $4.1 trillion. Do the numbers, and that is 55 countries now, all right, of course, with 30.2 million square kilometers of area. Now you have one country called Saudi Arabia that have 100 million in less than 3 years. France also had 110 million in 2023 tourists.
Okay.
Now they are looking at almost 150 million plus this year because of the Olympics. You have the whole of Europe that is on 10.1 million square kilometers of area. Africa is 30.2 million. It means that we can swallow the whole of Europe 3 times without belching. And they had, in 2023, 707 million visitors. 707 million visitors, just Europe. Dubai has a population of 3.44 million people. They got about 18 million 2023. The whole continent of Africa put together with our 1.5 billion in the continent and about additional 1 billion in diaspora from the figures I gave earlier, 44 million in the in the Caribbean, 56 million in the USA, 120 million in Brazil. When you put all that together, we got only 61 million for the whole continent of Africa. Tourists.
And so I'm sure Nigeria doesn't even have
yeah.
a fraction of that.
You see, we don't keep data.
200
We don't
plus
keep
million.
we don't keep data in Nigeria well enough for us to be able to determine that. I think with the new ministry, maybe that will begin. We need to know how we are doing, so we don't have a false sense of achievement. So when you sit back and you think about that, we then decided that let us put all the continent of Africa in a basket. Let's create an African shopping mall whereby people can shop to come to any part of Africa they want to come to through Nigeria. So we have a deep sea port. You can come from the Atlantic Ocean, from what we term from slave ships to cruise ships.
I like that. Slave to cruise.
To cruise.
Yeah.
Talking about the prosperity that we have reached as Africans. The concept of Ipada is an exodus, the return. Ipada of people of African. We're not saying they should return and hate where they are coming from. We don't have time for hate and anger, registered wrong and animosity. We believe very strongly that nobody is going to patronize that. Nobody is going to patronize our anger. Nobody is going to patronize our registered wrongs and nursed animosity for years, 400 years of slavery. Nobody is really going to patronize that. What they're going to patronize are the mega attractions we have all over Africa. In Nigeria alone, we have almost 300-400 different cultures.
Yes.
We have the best of music. We have the best of movies. When you combine what we have in Nigeria with what we have in all the other 54 African countries and put it in a basket, all the continents of the world cannot compete with Africa. But we have really never brought the continent of Africa in one basket to the world and say, hey, Ipada, we are going to facilitate your return to the continent. Any part of the continent you want to go to. So Ipada will be like, if you're coming from London, you say, it's Mali I want to go, we'll take you to Mali. You say you want to go to South Africa, when you land in Lagos, Abuja, we take you to South Africa. So we're basically creating an African shopping mall. So Ipada is to happen on a daily basis, on a regular basis.
The problem is we don't have there's no air link, amongst countries, between countries in Africa.
It's very simple. And I say this to everyone, because we have not created the market.
Okay.
The problem the airlines are having, the reason why flights are more expensive is because they can't feel we don't travel within the continent of Africa. If I if Europe can do 707 million visitors, let's assume we do 500 million. Let's just do 100 million. That would transform the economy of Nigeria and Africa overnight.
Absolutely.
And when we mention from slave ships to cruise ships, we got a group from the 6th region. You know what they call the 6th region of Africa now? African Union created a 6th region. You know, Africa is North, South, East, West, and Central Africa.
Yes.
Then they created a 6th region that all Africans in diaspora belong to the 6th region of Africa.
Say that again, please.
Okay. You have North, East, West, Central Africa, a total of 5 segments in the continent.
Yes.
So what African Union did is just that they have not publicized it and promoted it. They now created a 6th region of Africa to incorporate Africans living in the Caribbean, in Brazil, in the Americas, in the United States of America. A large number that runs into the same population. If people ask me the population of Africa, I used to tell them 3 billion. We are double the size of China. China is just 1.4 billion. And China is living on barely 9.8 million square kilometers of area. We have 30.2 million, and only 1.4 billion of us are living here. The rest are living in diaspora.
Somebody once said that the current map of Africa,
they shrunk it. No, it was shrunk deliberately.
And then they actually, it's very strange because they actually put the map of China, US, Europe inside Africa, and there was still enough space.
Like I said, Africa is 30.2 million. The United States of America has 10.1 million square kilometers of area. That's all. China has 9.8 million square kilometers of area. India has 8.9 million square kilometers of area. You can put all those three. The whole of Europe is 10.1 million square kilometers of area. So if you take the whole of Europe, 10.1 million, you take the United States of America, another 10 million, that's about 21 odd million. And then you take China, 9.5 million. That's about 30. And we're at 30.2. We are still bigger than all of them put together. Right. And we only have 1.5. And all the natural resources are here in the continent.
Yes, and they all come here to mine them.
Yeah, it belongs to the world. If you don't mine them, other people will mine them. Because we are disconnected from who we are. What do we expect? The world is not going to sit around and watch us play with gold and diamond, and not touch it and not use it.
We're talking about tourism, we're talking about hospitality. We're also talking about something that's so deep.
Absolutely. It's just that we don't sit back to think about these things.
Where are our African leaders? What are they doing? Are they not seeing these things? You talked about research earlier.
Yeah.
I'm getting emotional.
No, you can't. You have to understand that everything has its time. It has its place. And it's going to be moving. Things are happening. They are beginning to happen. We have to, if we listen to our forefathers, if we listen to them, some of the words they spoke to us, we'll begin to have a clearer understanding of what life is all about. In Yoruba, we have a saying that Oja Laye. Oja Laye. It means that the world is a marketplace.
Yeah.
Everybody comes into this world to sell their market. The managing director of Coca-Cola cannot go and meet the managing director of Pepsi to ask Pepsi to help him market his product.
Because they're competing.
They're competing. So when you have a marketplace and we are expecting other people to come and help our marketing, to come and help us build, they have their own challenges. They're looking at you that, look at you, you have everything. You have fantastic weather. You have 30.2 million square kilometers of area. In DRC Congo, they have 2.1 million square kilometers. They have all the natural resources in the world in their soil.
DR Congo, yes, yes, yes.
So, I mean, you can't begin
And yet
to.
it's still one of the poorest countries in the world.
It's still, Belgium is holding them by the jugular. And Belgium is like an elephant that has been disturbed by.
Because of the way you have presented it now, I look at those three Burkina Faso, Niger, and Guinea-Bissau.
Bissau.
They seem to have successfully pulled out of France, because France was saying they should pay what they owned, they should pay royalty on it or interest.
Well, $500 billion is what the Francophone countries give to France on an annual basis, but I don't want to get there. My position, I'm into tourism. Let's talk about Ekpada.
Okay.
What we must do is to focus on what we need to do as a people. What we need to do as a people is to make sure we make it easy and comfortable for our brothers in diaspora and lovers of Africa also. I am not discriminatory.
Sure.
I am not tribalistic. And I believe that the world is one place and that everything that is happening in the continent should benefit the world. It's benefiting the world anyway in the first place. You can't stop that. The oil is coming from here, the gold is coming, the diamond, everything is happening from here. So we must make it easy. I give you a short statistics. India as a country have 32.4 million diasporans. Only 32.4. Out of their
1.4 billion.
They are now about 1.5 billion. They are bigger than China now.
Okay.
They are now the biggest. Now, they did in 2023 $119 billion funding from diaspora to India. Nigeria has about 18 to 19 million in diaspora.
Right.
Last year we did $19 billion. It used to be about $25 billion. But the difference between India and Nigeria is that Nigerians send their residual money to uncles, 1,000, 5,000, 3,000. But Indians come back to India to set up fintech companies, to set up small organizations.
So it's not a brain drain.
It's a brain gain for them. So they come back and set up things and build infrastructure within India. So they don't just send peanuts. So when they come back, when an individual comes back with $10 million, $15 million, it's different from the Adeojo in New York that will send $1,000 to his mother. Because $1,000 today is 1.7 million naira. That is ouch. that is perfect. That's enough. But he will not come back. He will not bring his children back to set up things. So these are the things. So the idea is for us to bring them back, and we call it Ekpada.
One question, though, is I get this personal feeling that African leaders are not in tune with this concept of tourism. If they were, it shouldn't be this bad.
Yeah, you're very spot on, Soni. We are part of the leaders, you and I.
Are you sure?
Yes, we are. Well, let me tell you why and what I mean by that. Every person today, I am sure, that are governors, House of Rep, whatever they are, know Soni Irabor life. They grew up watching you. They grew up knowing you. They are the leaders of today. When we were growing up, tourism was not in our agenda. So you can't blame them. They were never into tourism. Their own idea of tourism is to go to London and shop. That is tourism. True. And they go to Dubai and shop. They go to, yeah, that's what they go to do. I mean, as a matter of fact, Dubai had to create a shopping festival because of Nigerians. And every December, we all rush there. And then they create a Black Friday for people to run and buy and sell things. So basically, yeah, that's a form of tourism, but a lot of us do not have that exposure to tourism. It's the lowest hanging fruit. And you know the beauty about tourism, Soni? You'll be taking advantage of your advantage. Mm. And that is when you have an absolute monopoly. Mm. Nobody...
We really have the market.
We have the market. It's huge. So I think Ipada for us is our own way of, I mean, it's the first event where you see a president of a country accepting to be three major things too. The grand patron, brand ambassador, and chief host. Because he can see the value of what this will add to the continent. He can see the value. It's not like he wants to do us a favor. He can see that if we make this work and we bring 100 million, because if France, one country, can do 100 million, if Saudi Arabia can do 100 million, if the whole of Europe can do 707 million, then continent should do 1 billion. Because we have over 1 billion in diaspora.
We have the natural resources.
And we have the natural resources. We have the business opportunity. You can build a Fortune 500 in Africa in 3 years because you have the market here. So, I mean, he can see all of that. The business opportunities, the lowest hanging fruit is tourism. And when people come for tourism, then they can go to cultural and enjoy cultural displays and enjoy cultural entertainment. When people then come for tourism, they can get exposed to our music and dance to our music.
And our music is doing very well now.
And when millions of people come, the creative economy will explode.
Nollywood too.
Bear in mind our children, your son, the filmmaker, your daughter, the producer, and all of them will be creating and producing, and the market will be there for them. They will be in front of them. They will come to patronize them here locally. In tourism, we have something we refer to as internal export.
Will you explain that, please?
Internal export. Okay. Now, the concept of internal export is that if I want to, let me just use a commodity, yam. I want to export my yam. I go through the process of getting my trailer and getting all the things I need and getting Food and Drug Administration certification and ship. It'll take me about approximately maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on where I'm sending it to. And when I get over there, I have to deal with all the other processes. And some will spoil. When I land there, I'll be competing with people from Colombia, from other parts of the world that have the same product. And then maybe I'll get to sell to 5,000 people. Now, if I bring those 5,000 people here to my resort, I have absolute monopoly. It's the yam I give them, they will eat. I don't have to pay for shipment. I don't have to worry about quarantine. I don't have to get any certification. That is what you refer to as the mouth and the stomach you are going to feed in America. Bring them here. And it's only in tourism you can experience that. So if Pada Carnival will explode a Greek, you can imagine If 1 million people come into Lagos, it means you need about 2 million tubers of yam.
True.
Minimum.
And you have to provide it.
You have to provide them. I'm just imagining how places like Dubai that have just 3.1 million people are feeding. You know, when you travel, you eat double. So if you have 20 million people going to Dubai, approximately, there about, last year was low, was 17 million. If you have 20 million people, that's like feeding 40 million people.
Well,
So if they all eat yam twice a day, you need 80 million tubers of yam.
I want to say something a bit positive about the Nigerian scenario. They now have visa on arrival, which makes it a lot much better. For anyone who's coming in, he doesn't have to sweat, worry too much about getting a visa from home, but coming here to do it. Fair enough. If that is the case, it will give this tourism dream a better chance to breathe and listen. But come to you. How have you been able? I mean, I'm quite impressed by your your knowledge, man.
Thank
How have you
you.
been able to cope with all of these restlessness in your
Head.
gray matter? We're about to round up,
Sleeplessness.
so yes, Kevin. Sleepless night.
How have I been able to cope?
Yes.
Well, because you keep going at it and hoping for a better day. You don't give up. If it was easy, I keep saying this, everybody would have done it.
Mm.
And we must understand that our focus in life is about creating the platform for tomorrow's people. The platform we are standing on today was the doing of yesterday people, the Awolowas, the Nahurus. The platform for tomorrow's people, the Ahmadu Bellos and the rest of them, the Azikiwes. The platform for tomorrow's people must be created by us today's people. And we must realize that it's not really about the wealth you live for your children, you think about. It's about the kind of society. It's about the kind of infrastructure, things you create that will make their resources worth it. If 30 years ago, when we were growing up, we were buying a car for 4,000 naira. So if a parent left ₦1 million for their children, then it would say they can never be poor again.
Anyway, I've been asked to
But
round
₦1
off.
million is what you spend in 1 hour today.
In 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
What's your message to African leaders? Because this is key.
I think African leaders must begin to think like there's no box. Not think outside of the box. They must begin to look at how they can take advantage of their advantage and the different advantages they have. They must be worried because the colonizers of yesterday were a bit colloquial rather. They're a bit backward. They have basically the same education we have. And they came and they stole artifacts and people. But the new colonialism now is scary because they don't even need to come. They know what you have in your soil. They have the technology to reap it. So we must begin the process of working on looking at how to make sure we quickly enlighten ourselves in artificial intelligence, where we're going to be giving a free training here for 5,000 youths, free of charge, to learn artificial intelligence. And I'm not going to leave it only to the leaders. I'm going to talk to us. There must be an us. We expect too much from them. I believe strongly that there must be a process to get us to think more about what we are not doing as a people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a very, well, I should say, a training session on Soni Irabor Live with Otumba Wanle Akinboboye. I have to be very careful to always say Wanle.
It's actually Wanle
Wanle.
Olawanle.
Olawanle.
There's wealth in the house.
Okay.
Very
I'm
arrogant
coming
name.
to your house.
I
So
will
you get
open the door
wealthy.
for you.
Thank you so much, Otumba.
You're
It's been
most
a
welcome.
great moment. Tutorial for me, honestly.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And so, for all of you who may have listened, if you didn't get it, well, try and get it. On YouTube, News Central Live, Soni Irabor Live, and then on DSTV, channel 422, and Start Time, channel 274. Thank you, goodbye, and God bless.